have Ukrainian Member of Parliament, Evgenia Kravchuk, in fact, joining us at the moment as well. Thank you so much for speaking with India today. We're in fact bringing to our viewers here in India images of Prime Minister Modi's conversation with President Zelensky at the G7 summit in Hiroshima. What is it that the Ukrainian side, ma'am, would have pressed upon in these discussions?
For sure that President Zelensky would be telling, or was already telling, Prime Minister Modi about the peace formula that is formulated by the President Zelensky, and we see it as a roadmap to achieve a sustainable peace. And it contains of 10 points. And of course, one of the biggest points is that we do not trade any territories, to ensure that all the international rules are in place. Believe that Ukraine has to return to the borders of 1991, and all of the Russian troops have to leave our territory. We're not fighting on Russia's territory. That is very important to understand to all of the people who are listening and seeing us. We are fighting only on Ukrainian territories within our recognized borders. And of course, it contains a lot of other things that are very important. For example, stop the ecocides. I mean, our ecosystem had been damaged a lot by Russia's military, and this you can rebuild the bridge in 1 year, but to restore ecosystem, it will take 20 years, 30, maybe 50 years in some of the points. Also about the nuclear safety, Russia still is occupying one of the biggest nuclear power plants in Europe, which is Zaporizhia, near Zaporizhia, and actually it is a threat to the whole region. So I'm sure that President Zelensky and Prime Minister Modi had some time to go through these points, and we believe this is a fair road to a sustainable peace.
Right. Ma'am, what sort of a role would Ukraine want India to play? India has been in conversation with both Russia and Ukraine as well. Not the first time, of course, that the Prime Minister has in fact spoken with President Zelensky. But what sort of a role would you want India to play?
I would put it like that in this case, it's not a regional war, really. It's a war of democracy and values, and India calls itself as the biggest democracy in the world, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So it's about democracy and autocracy and tyranny. So if we truly believe that we want to live in a democratic, peaceful world, then world has to help Ukraine to win. I understand it's a lot of ties. It had been a lot of historical ties. It's hard to understand what atrocities Russia does in Ukraine, but it is happening in the 21st century, and it cannot be tolerated. So it's very hard for Ukrainians who suffer every day. I mean, who having bombs over their heads every day, children suffering, being killed, to understand that someone tries to be neutral in this horrific war in the middle of the 21st century, in the middle of Europe. So we believe that Indian Prime Minister can learn more about steps which Ukraine proposes to finish this war and for Ukrainian victory, because it will be a mutual victory of democratic world.
Okay. Also, in terms of, the conversations that President Zelensky is having at the G7 summit, we're getting pictures of his meeting, at least, a warm meeting he seemingly had also with the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak as well. What sort of a role does Ukraine want the G7 nations and its partner countries, which of course includes India, to play?
Feel this support not just in words, but also in the deeds, in what way, in actions. It's about sanctions against Russia. It's about financial support to Ukraine, and of course, it's about the military support. Of course, it goes mainly to the J7 in terms of military support. And actually, you might know that already the G7 leaders, at least part of them who have these military capacities, they finally officially announced that Ukrainian pilots will be trained on the modern fighter jets, which are F-16, for example. And the training could go for at least 4 months. We understand that. But we truly believe that at the end of the day, the political deaths, as we got modern tanks, as we got MLRS systems, artillery, other types of weapons. And I would also want to point out again that we use these weapons not against territory of another country. We're using it to liberate occupied territories of our own country and to save, of course, our people's lives.
Ma'am, when you, of course, say that there is no room left for diplomacy, for negotiations with Russia until Russia completely withdraws, wouldn't that lead to a stalemate-like situation?
I would put it like that. Russia is a big killing machine, which is moving on territory of my country, killing my people, killing kids, killing everyone. So the only way is, you cannot pray near this machine. You cannot issue a statement near this killing machine. You can only break this killing machine to make sure it will not harm anyone else. And also, if anyone says about, oh, well, let's start negotiations, it will mean just freezing the conflict, and Russia will come back in 5 years, in 8 years, because they need to regroup to to produce other missiles to send to innocent people. So the only way is just to break this killing machine.
Okay, Ms. Kravchuk, just stay on with us. Our Foreign Affairs editor, Geeta Mohan, is also over the phone line with us. Geeta, would you like to take a question with Ms. Kravchuk?
Well, there was a very critical time when Ukraine was deciding on which country is supporting Ukraine and accordingly taking a call on diplomatic relations with that country. In fact, President Zelensky withdrew and recalled the Ukrainian ambassador, Igor, from New Delhi. Will we see a reinstatement of an ambassador to India after this meeting?
It's a good question, and I really hope that we will send an ambassador to India pretty soon. Of course, it's the thing that will be announced by President Zelensky or the office of President Zelensky. I truly believe that having the ambassador India is absolutely crucial. For example, we visited ambassador to China, after a quite long period when we didn't have the actual ambassador in China. So I really hope that in the terms of having ambassador in India, it will move again. And also, I would like to say that Ukrainian parliamentarians are also ready to work more and to visit India and to meet with parliamentarians from India to speak the truth and to speak what's going on. I mean, it's not about the figures in Twitter or whatever, in press releases. It's about telling stories, real life, what's happening in Ukraine and how we see the achievement of our victory and peace to the world, and of course peace to Ukraine.
Ma'am, you did mention about the fact that Ukrainian members of parliament would like to, in fact, visit India, maybe interact with Indian members of parliament in order to apprise them about what the situation actually is on the ground. Is that something that the Ukrainian government is seriously considering at the moment, the possibility of sending a delegation?
Well, as you might imagine, that parliament and government are different branches of power, so we don't need, actually government sending us. But we as a parliament, I think it would be worth forming a cross-party delegation, because I'm from Zelensky party. There are some other parties in Ukrainian Parliament, but they are ready to work together, and we are working together to ensure victory for Ukraine. So I think it would be very worth forming this delegation going to India. We had one of the members of Ukrainian Parliament going to the meeting. It's like the biggest universities coming together, and they were speaking for the students. And I think it's very good to speak not via Zoom, to see someone from TV, but I'm really thankful for the opportunity to speak on TV of India, but also to have the eye-to-eye meetings. And from our side, of course, we would be happy if we would receive an invitation from our counterparts in Indian Parliament.
Okay. Ma'am, before we let you go, could you, again, just for the benefit of our viewers, from your perspective, tell us what the current day situation on the ground is, because this has been an ongoing war. This has been a situation of conflict that everyone has been, of course, keeping themselves up to speed about, but it has been going on for over a year now.
Yes, and remember when I had some interventions into your television in March last year, the situation was so uncertain. Russians were near Kiev. They occupied a large part of Ukraine, but since then, Ukrainian army was able to regain a lot of territories, to recapture a lot of territories. We received a lot of modern weapons. Our army had been trained, and we're planning this counter-offensive to liberate even more territory. It just proves that Ukraine is capable to win, and Russia is not capable to win and occupy the Ukrainian territory. Because Ukraine is too big, and Ukraine is fighting fiercely and will be fighting fiercely, because it's the fight for our life and our independence. We don't want to be Russian slaves.
Okay. Mr. Kravchuk, thank you so much for joining us from Ukraine.